Have you ever wondered who really pulls the strings in the global economy? Today, we're going to dive deep into the story of BlackRock, a company that, according to our source material, went from a tiny office to a financial behemoth that some say controls the entire world.
This one sentence, according to our sources, is the key to understanding everything about BlackRock. I mean, think about that. It's not about owning stuff. It's about being everywhere, a strategy of quiet, pervasive influence that has allowed them to become one of the most powerful and yet least known forces on the planet.
So just how influential are we talking? Well, hold on to your hats. The source claims they control assets worth a staggering 11 times trillion dollars. To put that in perspective, that's more than the entire economies of Japan, Germany, and the UK combined. They have huge stakes in the companies that shape your life every single day. Apple, Microsoft, Google, you name it, they're in it. So, the big question is, how on earth did a small team of just 8 people build an empire that our source claims now holds the levers of global finance? Let's unpack that story.
The first thing you got to understand about BlackRock's power is that it often works from the shadows. It's not some loud, in-your-face force. It's more like a quiet, unseen hand that shapes the entire financial world from behind the curtain.
In this slide right here, it says it all. Picture this. It's 2008. The global economy is literally on the brink of total collapse. Who does the US president call? Not the CIA, not the FBI. Nope. He calls a private citizen, Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock. That single phone call tells you everything you need to know about where the real power was. But, to really get BlackRock, you have to understand the guy who started it all. And according to our sources, the company's origin story isn't just one of ambition. It's a story of revenge. Back in the mid-'80s, Larry Fink was a Wall Street legend, a true rock star. But then, wham! Black Monday hits in 1987. One bad bet loses his firm $100 million, and just like that, he's fired. Publicly humiliated. But instead of just fading away, he vowed he was going to change the whole system. After a quick partnership with Blackstone, he broke away in 1992 to form BlackRock, built on one single, powerful lesson: never again rely on a gut feeling. So if not gut feelings, then what? Well, that lesson was all about relying on data. Cold, hard data. And this led to the creation of BlackRock's secret weapon, a system our sources call a super algorithm, Aladdin. So what is Aladdin? Well, the official name is a total mouthful, but our sources describe it as one of the world's first true financial AI systems, designed way back in '92 to see the future by tracking thousands of variables in real time. But here's the kicker. The claim is its purpose wasn't just to predict crises, but to actually shape them. And this right here, this is the core of their alleged power. Information is everything, right? If you have better data than anyone else on the planet, you control the story. And if you control the story, what's a good investment, what's a bad one? You can pretty much control reality itself. Aladdin's first big test came in 1994. Everyone knew Mexico's economy was in trouble, but no one knew exactly when the crash would hit. Well, Aladdin predicted it would happen within 2 weeks. So Fink took what are called short positions, basically betting that Mexico's market would tank. And wouldn't you know it, exactly 13 days later, the market crashed and BlackRock reportedly walked away with $500 million. But look, that whole Mexico thing, that was just a warm-up act. The real turning point, the moment BlackRock allegedly went from just being a powerful player to being an essential part of the system itself, came during the 2008 global financial crisis. Remember that call to Larry Fink? Well, the government hired BlackRock to manage the toxic assets. All that complex, nearly worthless junk that was poisoning the books of collapsed banks like Bear Stearns and AIG. And this gave them something absolutely priceless: no-bid government contracts and, crucially, access to the Federal Reserve's confidential data. They weren't outsiders anymore. They were on the inside. Our source summarizes this moment with a really powerful line. Fink didn't just save the system, he bought it. Using Aladdin, BlackRock analyzed all those toxic assets, bought them for pennies on the dollar, and when the market recovered, those worthless investments turned into billions. But more importantly, it created a dependency. The US Treasury and the Federal Reserve now relied on BlackRock. And that power they grabbed during the crisis, it didn't just disappear, it evolved. So how does BlackRock actually exert its immense control today? Our source breaks it down into 4 key methods. They use their massive shareholder power to influence corporate boards. They've developed a scoring system called ESG.
They benefit from a revolving door with the government, and they have a playbook for cashing in on crises. Let's look at a few of these a little closer. Let's start with this revolving door. This table shows just a handful of examples of top officials from the Federal Reserve, the Treasury, and the White House moving into senior roles at BlackRock. Our source poses the question, isn't it a conflict of interest when the people who once made national economic policy become so closely tied to a single, powerful corporation that benefits from those very policies?
Then you have the other methods. As one of the largest shareholders in almost every major company, their vote can single-handedly change a board of directors, like they did at ExxonMobil in 2021, to push a climate agenda. And then there's ESG. It stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance. But our source claims it's used as a weapon. If a company doesn't align with BlackRock's narrative, it can get a low ESG score, which basically chokes off its access to capital from a huge pool of investors.
And hey, this isn't just some interpretation. In an interview cited by our source, Larry Fink himself said, quote, "Behaviors have to change. We are forcing behaviors." The crucial point here is the open admission of using immense financial leverage to force specific actions from companies all over the world.
So, all of this brings us to the final part of our explainer. What does it all mean for the future? Where is this whole system heading, according to our source material? While one major push is towards central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, and BlackRock is advising central banks around the world on this transition. Our source draws a really sharp contrast. Cash is anonymous and uncontrolled. A digital currency is the exact opposite. Every single transaction can be traced, monitored, and, if a government wants, it can be frozen with the click of a button. And this all ties into a now famous line, which our source says appeared in a presentation linked to the World Economic Forum, an organization where, surprise, surprise, Fink is a board member. The idea is a future built on subscriptions and tokenization, where real-world things like your house or your car are converted into digital tokens. You don't own the asset, you just access it. Remember that motto? They don't need to own everything, just control the system that manages it all.
But our source concludes with a dose of historical perspective. Power is never permanent. The Roman Empire fell. The British Empire declined. The Soviet Union collapsed. History teaches us that every single system of immense, concentrated power eventually reaches its end.
And so, that leaves us with a final question to consider. This explainer laid out our source's case for how one company accumulated what they call unprecedented power. But as we look to the future, the biggest question isn't just about BlackRock. It's about the nature of power itself. When one system eventually fades, what new system will rise up to take its place?